Welcome Scorpio to your in-depth monthly horoscope for December 2023 for the Sun or the Ascendant. I'm going to give you a few standout details to look out for. Please stay with me. I will explore in much greater depth all the ins and outs particularly relevant to your sign. Now we have to be mindful of your ruler Mars, your traditional ruler. And Mars stays pretty close to the Sun for much of this month, which obviously brings a sense of excitement, but also as we enter into December, on the 4th, Venus, the planet of relating, moves to your sign. Now Venus has been in the sign of Libra, which it rules, and is detrimented in Scorpio, but for you personally, I can assure you, this is going to bring you much more into the moment around all sorts of relationship potential. It's also really exciting that it goes into a dramatic opposition with Uranus between the 18th and the 23rd. I can't wait to share that with you. And of course we have the winter solstice on the 22nd. So please stay with me for more. Now, if you've yet to order your personal horoscope for year 2024, if you do so now, you can still get the rest of this year free. But also my special package, you'll get your character analysis report, your life roadmap, and 30% off, but also your year 2024 zodiac forecast for each of the 12 signs, but also Indian forecast for each of the 12 signs, and Chinese forecast for each of the 12 animal signs, totally free of charge, those booklets. Please see the link below for more. So Scorpio, as you make your way into December, so the Sun, initially Mercury and Mars, your traditional ruler, are all gathered in the sign of Sagittarius. Sagittarius is an optimistic sign, it's governed by Jupiter, but for you personally it's very much about everyday resources, the foundational aspects of your life, your personal values and cash, everyday expenditure and income. But later on the first day, Mercury switches into Capricorn. And that's a great step change, to be honest, because the third house is a Gemini type vibration. It may be hosted by the earthy Capricorn, but your mind gets more nimble. It's just that Mercury is in its pre-retrograde shadow, which began on the 25th of November. If you did experience a little bit of uncertainty about some financial news or buying and selling things in the week before the start of this month, it wouldn't be an entire surprise. But Mercury making its way through Capricorn is very good if you're thinking about business transactions, because Mercury thrives in Capricorn for that, and your mind can be quite agile despite the pre-retrograde shadow. But Venus moving into your sign on the 4th has lots of very positive dimensions. Not least, if you have gone through a period of really reflecting very deeply about any kind of relationship, moving into your own sign is like drawing a celestial line in the sand. But also Venus in the first house can be very much about our appearance. It's very much on the ascendant, if you like. So if you're thinking about giving yourself some kind of glamorous makeover for the festivities, that's a great time to really go for it. But there may be something deeper that you want to do with Venus, something that's more cosmetic. And it could be to do with going to your dental surgery to have some whitening added, maybe going to the hairdressers for a tint, or just really deciding you're going to give your wardrobe some kind of uplift in order to give you extra radiance over the festive period. But Venus in the first house can see, if we're single, more than one person beat a path to our door. So right through to the 29th, enjoy that extra attention. But the 6th sees Neptune go direct in your sector of romance. Neptune, of course, is a swirling, misty, elusive, mystical, enchanting and downright confusing influence. So in the retrograde, if there has been some uncertainties about your love life, particularly with the dour Saturn having taken up home in the sign of Pisces on the 7th of March and gone through its own long retrograde, wouldn't be a real surprise. And it is true also that although we have the new moon of the 12th, which could see you set your intentions to improve your financial situation, not just through the Christmas period, which of course can be expensive, but maybe your determination is going to see you into the start of January to try to squeeze that much more out of your budget. And because Mars is in the mix, there's a greater earnestness, a greater desire to make it work for you. But it's also forging a very constructive link to the North Node. The North Node in Aries is in the 6th house for you, which is to do with practicality. So everyday money, working with your ability to hone in on what's really essential. And because you can be very, very shrewd and brilliant at analysing things and kind of understanding what is really on offer rather than what appears to be on offer. So that canniness is going to come back to you on this particular new moon, but just be aware that Neptune in house 5 can be where we want to splurge a little bit, particularly to spoil people. And of course the context is Christmas itself. So if there's someone that you're really drawn to at the moment romantically, you could be in the mood to splash out to impress them. Just be conscious of what you're being told, because Neptune can be very illusory. The 13th, however, sees Mercury go retrograde. Lots of different people have different views on Mercury retrogrades. I think we can all agree that they can cause some snags, particularly with technology, whether it's constant updates on our computer of the software, whether it's our handheld device suddenly keeps keeps powering down, whether we haven't backed up some stuff and it kind of something happens and we lose some information. So the 3rd house does require you to take some steps to prevent those kind of things happening. So back up your data. If it's a while since you've had some maintenance done to any important technological device, this would be a good time to actually get things sorted. And of course it's late in the year, everyone's busy, so it's probably better to be proactive in the earlier part of December rather than waiting for the retrograde to take hold, because remember the pre-retrograde shadow is in place as we go into this month. And if you're buying or selling anything online in the 3rd house, it's very much to do with technology, then do check that what's advertised is what's sold, and make sure that you check your bank statement and stuff like that. So you add the precision that comes from Mercury's rulership of Virgo to the transactions you're doing online. But what about the more constructive elements of the Mercury retrograde? Well, the 3rd house governs siblings and it also governs neighbours. If you haven't heard from someone for a while, is this an opportunity to bring some healing to the situation? Is someone going to make an overture that you're not going to welcome? Not because you necessarily wish them any harm, but simply because you may have cut the cords and be at peace with that. So there could be some opportunities for increased communication, and that could be positive. It depends on your personal approach or relationship to whatever communication comes in. The 18th to the 23rd, however, sees that lively opposition between Venus and Uranus. If you are single, I can almost guarantee you, if you are out and about and socialising and you would like to have some kind of connection with someone, you could well be having a clinch under the mistletoe. It may sound corny and rather hackneyed and cheesy, but Uranus creates excitement, and it's been creating excitement around your relationship sector for 4.5 years. Not all of it you will have welcomed. There may have been a break, an ending with someone where either they wanted their freedom or you did, or in an existing relationship there may be some kind of tension that grips the peace where you're kind of trying to negotiate something that you both can just about adhere to. And of course Venus in your sign is definitely going to add to your sense of attractiveness. So just don't be surprised, whatever your status, if you have some kind of encounter. It may even, you know, be completely innocent, where you're opening the door at work and then you hold the door open and then the person's there, or someone rings you up and there is a kind of chemistry. I think that's chemistry central, Venus opposite Uranus, and you don't have to get out your chemistry set in order to cook up the magic. So, but something could happen quite quick. And talking of things going quick, the 22nd sees the winter solstice, which is the last, brings in the last of the cardinal quadrants of the year, the last 13 weeks of the astrological calendar. So nothing to do with the Gregorian or the Julian calendars that, you know, many of us do work around. It starts with the spring equinox. That's when the journey begins of the sun returning to the sign of Aries. So moving into Capricorn, it's very much our worldly connection. Capricorn's earthy, it's about responsibility, it's ruled by Saturn, can be about where we have to be quite serious about things, rules and regulations, traditions and all the rest of it, but can be about property. But for you, this is the third house. So you've already got Pluto here, which has been transforming your philosophies and your ideas and your relating style since 2008, and may have had quite a dramatic impact on certain relationships with neighbours and siblings. So it's interesting that the winter solstice echoes, in a way, the Mercury energy that's going on with the retrograde, but then, ironically, on the 23rd, Mercury inverses back into the sign of Sagittarius. So it's going to end this year in retrograde, and ironically, it's going to end 24 in Sagittarius in retrograde. But on the 25th, on Christmas Day, the moon's in the bubbly, vibrant, and perhaps a frivolous sign of Gemini. Sorry if you have any Gemini in your chart, I don't mean that unkindly, but it's a bit more irreverent, and I think that can be good, but it is squaring with Neptune. So house 5, where you're feeling, you know, really sensitive about the things that you feel are important, the joys that are important, and someone that you're perhaps having to grapple with could be a bit tricky. Classic sort of Mercury influence on the Christmas Day. Maybe a little bit of, I don't know, somebody's energy could be a bit draining, a bit tiring. Maybe there's some power games going on that you might not appreciate. But the full moon on the 27th gives you an opportunity to cut through and get to what really matters. Because what I love about Scorpio people is you say what you mean, generally. And I feel because Jupiter and Saturn are collaborating together around this event, it's going to be a really interesting full moon, because the moon's in its home sign of Cancer. So it gets easier when the moon's in Cancer to say how we really feel, rather than say what we think people think we should say. And it's the 9th house, which is like what really inspires you. It's like your higher values. So you could end up having some really quite dynamic and thoughtful conversations as the year comes to a close. But also, if you're someone who does like a little bit of retail therapy, you're going to find the sales absolutely irresistible, because by this stage, Mercury's retrograde is connecting with the advance in Mars in the sign of Sagittarius. Sagittarius is not known for its carefulness. It's more known for being exuberant. So because Mars can make Mercury a bit more impulsive, and it's in the 2nd house, you may find yourself splashing out on something you find really hard to resist. But also the Sun, from the 25th to the 28th, forges a brilliant link which crests on the full moon, a trine which is one of the luckiest in astrology. So Jupiter is about growth, and for you, it's in your sector of relationships, and the Sun's in your sector of everyday conversation. A connection with someone forged at the end of this year could be really significant throughout the next 12 months. If it doesn't happen towards the end of this year, don't feel that you can't have that connection with someone, because I believe the solar return, in terms of our sun sign, can provide a backdrop which is important for the following 12 months. And Venus moves out of your sign on the 29th, and guess what? Joins up with Mercury and Mars in Sagittarius. Further up in your desire to not resist some of those calorific goodies that are going around at the pre-New Year's Eve parties, or perhaps those bargains that are just vying for your attention, I should say. And on the 31st, Jupiter goes direct after its 4-month retrograde, but it's still in contact with the Sun, just in the trine within 3 degrees. But it's just that Neptune does apply to Mercury and also Mars as the year comes to a close. So once again, just be aware, if you're being very generous to someone that you're drawn to romantically, that it's basically earthed in a way which is good for you, as well as demonstrating your generosity. Now, usually, as I mentioned before, you can be a very canny cookie and don't necessarily get swept off your feet, but that magnetic opposition between Venus and Uranus in your own sign means lots of flattery will be coming your way, and those compliments need to be deciphered. And however good you are at cutting through the BS, someone could have a way of just pulling at your heartstrings a little bit because of Neptune. So just be aware that Neptune is going direct on the 6th, but its mysticism and mystique, which can be adorable, can provide some illusions around conversations, but particularly around resources. So just be conscious of that. Now, if you are spending Christmas Day alone, just know I will be thinking particularly of you. But whatever your status, I'd like to wish you a very happy Christmas and all the best for year 2024. And I'd be honoured if you would like, comment, share or subscribe.